Let's jump right in and talk about Iran. And primarily, I think the real question right now is, and I think the question that Israel has on its mind is, what does Trump want to do? What is the plan? What is Trump going to do when he comes into office? Supposedly, there's significant discussions within the Trump transition team about, well, what do we do? What do we do with Iran? Iran is in a corner. They're dramatically weakened. How is the United States, once in office, going to deal with Iran? Like every other president, pretty much, Trump has said that he will not accept a nuclear Iran with nuclear weapons. So what's he going to do about it? And I guess they're considering a number of different options. They're considering using this opportunity to really squeeze Iran in terms of a negotiated deal, and try that. They're considering the United States going in there and just, crushing the Iranians and stopping, and destroying their nuclear capabilities that way. They're considering, instead of the United States doing it, just giving a green light for Israel to do it and letting Israel go in and do as much harm as it can to Iran's nuclear program. Of course, we've talked about many times on the show the fact that that is not going to be easy for Israel to do, given the lack of the big 35,000-pound bunker-busting bombs that Israel just doesn't have. They're considering Israel and the U.S. together bombing the Iranians, bombing their nuclear program. They're considering letting Israel bomb and then negotiating. So they're looking at different alternatives, different scenarios. We don't know yet where they are landing up, what the conclusion is. Israel, I think, is very much concerned about what is the Trump administration's ultimate program going to be, ultimate attitude towards Iran going to be. There's also reason to believe that Israel might just decide to take matters into its own hands, or might get a positive signal from the Trump administration before Trump takes office. It could be that Trump says, I'd like the Iran situation taken care of before I even get to the White House. I don't want to have to deal with this crap. And if he gives some kind of indication to the Israeli government, and Israel might wait until the week before Trump is sworn in, or 2 weeks before. So I'd say, the 2 weeks starting on the 10th, from the 10th to 10th of January, maybe a little earlier. According to Boaz, who I do the show in Hebrew with, Boaz thinks Israel is going to take out the Iranian nuclear program after the 10th of January. That is, they're going to do it during a sweet spot where Biden can't do anything because he's on his way out, literally. There just isn't enough time for him really to do anything if he's pissed off at the U.S. And Trump might be thankful because it takes this issue off the table for him. So according to Boaz, somewhere between the 10th and the 20th of January is going to be when Israel really takes out the Iranian nuclear program. Maybe also takes out the regime. I think one thing that Israel won't do, and it doesn't matter who's in the White House, is they won't go after the oil. That is, I think the U.S., if it's going to negotiate with Iran, wants the oil on the table for negotiations, wants to be able to say, no, we'll completely stop all oil exports from you if you don't sign a deal. They need that tool. If Israel takes out the oil, that goes away. Now, maybe Iran goes away generally if Israel does that. But the other thing that might happen if Israel really was going to go all out, was really, going to follow up on what it did to Hezbollah and what it did in Syria recently, that is the potential for Israel actually to take out the Iranian leadership. I'm skeptical about that, but again, if that happens, that might happen just before Trump comes into office. So it's going to be interesting to see in about 2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks. We got a week until this year is over, and then another week before we get to that 2 weeks before inauguration sweet spot to see if it actually happens. I hope Boz is right. I am rooting for that, but yeah, I am at the same time skeptical. But I hope it is. In the meantime, the Houthis continue to make their presence known. One is they continue to block shipping through the Suez Canal. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about global trade. But they also, every other day, I was just talking to my sister, and she was like, yeah, the Houthis are dedicated to not letting us sleep through the night. So she says, like, every other day, between 2 and 4 a.m., the air raid shelter, the sirens go off, and they have to rush into the air raid shelter. Between 2 and 4 a.m., like every other day, not every day, every other day, the Houthis launch some ballistic missile, some drone in the direction of Tel Aviv. And my sister has to hustle with her family into the air raid shelter, which is a major distress. At least the attacks on the north have stopped, but now they still have this. Israel's getting impatient. I think today, like the defense secretary basically said, and I think Netanyahu backed him up, yeah, we're just going to destroy them. So the expectation now is that Israel is going to do to the Houthis what they did to Hezbollah. First of all, they're going to destroy their entire infrastructure. I mean, they've already done a lot. They took out their 3 ports. They took out a major refinery and a power plant. But it sounds like Israel's now dedicated to doing a lot more, maybe several attacks in a row. Not, it is 2,000 kilometers away. They have to refuel on the way there. It is a major operation. It's very expensive for Israel. But I think the Israelis are sick and tired of this. Also, I think Israel is going to go after Houthi leadership. There's talk about the Israelis starting to target Houthi leadership. They'll need robust intelligence to do that. I don't know if they have it, or maybe they'll rely on the intelligence from the Saudis. The Saudis might be willing to share that kind of intelligence. The Saudis have been fighting the Houthis, or were fighting the Houthis, for years, until about a year ago or a year and a half ago when they had a ceasefire. They might get intelligence from the United States, but the idea is that Israel is pretty much ready to take out the Houthis and to really destroy them. The Houthis claim they will keep bombing as long as there's fighting in Gaza. On the other hand, there might just be a ceasefire in Gaza, which it sounds like Israel are very close to making a deal with Hamas about, and that'll stop the Houthis. But hopefully, before the ceasefire in Gaza, the Israelis actually take them out. That they actually do to the Houthis what they did to Hamas, what they did to Hezbollah, and of course what they did to Syria's armaments, let's say, and that is take the initiative and just crush them, Finally, just quickly on the Middle East, I'll just say if you want to ask a question, feel free to do so, but Super Chat is the way to do it. I can't keep track of the chat, and I can't keep track of all the questions in the chat. So Super Chat is the way to highlight a question and get me to answer it. I answer all the Super Chat questions, even the not so nice ones. So use that. In particular, we're looking for some $20 questions because, we've got to make up some time. We've got 250 for the first hour. We've got another 220 to go. Another kind of, way in which you can see the Middle East has changed, and that Israel has basically completely realigned and caused Iran to go into a massive defensive front, and then add to that uncertainty that Trump coming into office creates is the fact that over the last few days, the pro-Iranian Iraqi militias, so these are militias in Iraq, pro-Iranian, that have been lobbing bombs into Israel. They've also been fighting in Syria. They've also been doing anything that basically the Iranians want them to do. They've been a branch of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they've been actively engaged in creating mayhem in the Middle East. Anyway, they have reached an agreement with the Lebanese government. This is the Al Akbar, yes, Al Akbar, which is a U.S. designated terrorist group. They have reached an agreement with the Iraqi Prime Minister that they will not interfere in Syria and that they will stay out of it. They're also going to wait and see. They're not going to attack America until they see what Trump's policy is going to be vis-a-vis Iran. And finally, they have agreed to halt all actions against Israel. So Israel is basically taken out, at least for now, another party. I think they also saw what, the Americans, right after the Syrian regime fell, basically went all out to try to destroy the remnants of ISIS. I mean, they did more bombing, I think, in 2 days than they'd done in a year. And they saw the firepower that the U.S. brought to that. And they saw, of course, what Israel has done. And they're like, okay, maybe we should take a breather and stop intervening and wait and see how all this shakes out. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear among the bad guys. That's always a good thing. Israel has shaken everybody up and reframed the Middle East and basically put the Iranians and all its allies on a back foot and struggling and challenging, and they don't know what to do. They don't know what's going to happen.